Hey, I am really excited to have Kimberly Miles on the Transformative Leadership Summit today. Kimberly is going to talk to us about how she reads books because it is fascinating. And she's the principal of East Gresham Elementary School. I said elementary this time, not high school. Right, Kimberly?
Nicely done.
And she's also in the mastermind with me, and we have been learning a lot. And one of the things that always comes up every week is some book that someone's reading, and then Kimberly pulls down a book she's reading, and you can see how much she has invested in learning by reading, and it's just awesome. So she's going to share that with you today, and I'm really excited about it. So thank you, Kimberly, for being part of the Transformative Leadership Summit.
You bet.
So let's start by talking about why it is that leaders are readers. Why is it important for us to keep reading as much as we do?
So as a leader, I want to learn more. And how can I, as a leader, learn more? What works best for me is by picking up a book and finding out what is new and recently being published. Because as a leader, I need to be modeling learning. So it's really important to me that I am up to date and current on recent publishings and new thinking that's available to me as a leader of a elementary school. So I'm really passionate about a couple of things, about being a learner and being a leader who learns. Those are the things that are really important to me. And in my elementary school, we're really focused in on literacy. So I always have a book in my office so when kids come to my office that they can see that I'm a reader.
Cool. And it's really cool that you do that for the kids also, that it's about them being able to see that you're reading as well. And sometimes we forget about that. And I'm sure that in our day and age, many of us are reading all the time. Some of those readings are limited to Facebook posts and Twitter posts and things that are short form. What is the difference between a short form reading and a long form like a book, and why is the book so powerful for you?
That's a good question. So a short form, actually, I do that as well, but it piques my interest and it gives me an aha moment that indicates to me that, I need to learn more about that. So then I go look for a published piece of work that is recent that I can learn more about it from. So I have favorite authors and I have favorite topics, but it's more important to me to not only dive into those books, but to be a diverse reader as well. So I can read something on literacy by Fisher and Fry, or I can do Putnam's most recent book on, opportunity gaps. So really to be a diverse reader is really important as being a strategic reader. So you start with the small, the blog post, the short text, and then to be a learner, you have to go deeper. And that's what books do for me. They give me the base of my knowledge so that I can be proficient as I lead a building.
Really great examples there. And do you read only education related books, or do you branch out in other diverse areas as well?
I will be honest, I am a nonfiction reader primarily, but I also like to read text that my own children are reading because I want to have the connections with them as adult children. What are you reading and what you're most interested in? So then I can make a connection with my own children as well as professionally, what do I want to read?
Yeah. And I like that connection with your own children. Have you been able to apply anything that you've been reading from them to education?
They kind of think outside the box, so maybe not necessarily, but it's really fun for us to sit down at the dinner table and to engage in dialogue that extends our thinking. I have two adult children, and one is an attorney and one is a teacher, and so those are really different spectrums. So my youngest son is an English language arts new teacher, and so we're reading books that he might use in his own classroom and engaging in dialogue and how he can use questioning strategies to facilitate learning as he engages in his new journey to becoming a teacher. And then my oldest son brings me new thinking with diverse, outside the box people that I never even heard of, and we have dialogue on that conversation as well.
Very cool. I also like to read things that are more business focused, and books like Made to Stick, I think, is the most recent one that I read. And that really gives me a different insight into how we can do our schools in a different way and focus on some different things to get us, more engaged, in get our kids more engaged, I should say. So you also have a blog where you do not really book summaries, but things that you've learned from books. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure, I'm going to turn around and grab Make It Sticks.
Oh, there we go.
There's my Make It Sticks. And this is a perfect example. It's not necessarily an education book, but it's really important if we want to make learning stick for our children as they progress through elementary school. What is it that we need to do as leaders? What is it that we need to do as teachers to make it stick for kids? And so how can we make learning engaging and prioritizing what's important? And so I'll show you my little bit of my book, but I'll go through and I'll highlight areas that I can not only use for my own personal use, but that I can also use in professional development sessions with teachers on, yes, learning is important, but how can we conduct or plan a lesson that's going to allow our children to remember what we've taught them over and over again. So another important point is to use these as a tool to enhance our own professional development, but also to expand the professional development of our teachers that we have in our building. So I pull out examples from texts such as Make It Stick to stress the importance of why we're teaching. What is the end goal? What do we want our kids to know and be able to do, and how can we make that stick for our kids?
So I was actually referencing a book called Made to Stick by Chip Heath and Dan Heath, which is very much a business type book. The subtitle is Why Some Ideas Survive and Others Die. So once again, like, you all just witnessed what Kimberly does in our mastermind pretty much every single week. Somebody makes a reference and she pulls off her shelf the book that and says, here's the book that I've read, and here's all of my notes to it. So anyway, talk a little bit about your blog, because I want to make sure people have that resource, because it is very it's a very good blog, and I follow it and I read what you write because you give me a different insight. So talk a little bit about a few things worth reading.
Okay, great. But before I do, I also want to just a little bit, and I think what you said is really important about diversifying the types of readings that we do. So I'm going to turn around and pull out another book. And I'm a big fan of Thomas Friedman. Mm-hmm. And, so an economics type of book. But this, to me, also enriches my understanding of the foundation of education and how it applies to us as citizens in this country, and how can I develop systems that are going to support all learners with the end goal. If we want our children to be college and career ready, how are they going to compete and participate in a global society? So to me, it's really important that we're not just in educational books. Sorry, you're going to get sick of looking at my books.
No, we're not.
But it's also important that you diversify so that you can have a broader base of knowledge. And the reason why that I have my blog is purely selfish. I like to remember what I've read and to use it as a reference tool for my own learning and understanding, and just as a dialogue of what I've done so far. It's a history of my own learning, and it also gives me an avenue to have others go to if they want to know about a certain topic that I've learned about. Then I have a reference tool that, hey, this is my idea. You can go to a few things worth reading and check out my summary and see if that interests you. So diversify and then record so that you can use it later as a tool to enhance your own learning or the learning of others.
Yeah, I love how on your blog, a few things worth reading.blogspot.com, you've got next on the list worth reading, which is, 5 different books. So today that is Triggers by Marshall Goldsmith, Built to Lead by David Long, Teaching Struggling and At-Risk Readers, Essentials of Assessing, Preventing, and Overcoming Reading Difficulties by David Kilpatrick, and Mathematical Mindset. So just very cool that you've got this list of all these different things that you you can go back and find all of this great information. I love what you've put together there.
Yeah, it's kind of fun. So another book, here we go. David Long's book. I just am in the process of reading this, and I'd like to highlight for my reference later little tabs, but a very different style of writer, very story-based, outside of my comfort zone, to be honest. But wow, what am I learning is really powerful. And so, yeah, it's really important that you, again, keep a track of what you want to read and have it ready so you can move on to the next step.
Very cool. And what are some of the goals of your reading? Like when you're writing the blog post, what kinds of things are you putting in there for you to reference later?
I want to remember the key points of what I've read because I'm honestly looking for patterns. We have different viewpoints and different beliefs in each of the writers that share their thinking. And so I'm really looking for some common themes that I can, that are research-based or that have been applied in schools that I can replicate and do in my own school setting. Because as a principal of a turnaround school, I need to be purposeful in what I do, and I can't be scattered all about. I really need to do what is effective and what has shown to be research-based or shown to be works. That's really what I'm looking for.
Yeah, very exciting. And so let's dig into the nerdy stuff about how you actually read and what that looks like. You've shown multiple books already with tabs across the top and highlights inside and pen drawings inside as well. So let's first talk about how you preview a book and get started reading it. What makes you decide you want to read it before you do start reading it?
So before I select a book, it has to have come across in more than one time. So I had to have heard more than one person reference it. For instance, my superintendent just mentioned a book a couple of days ago, and now my interest is piqued. I'm going to be interested to see if I hear that in other places. Like, for instance, I'm going to a conference this weekend. I'm going to be listening for that book to see if it's something relevant that I should read. So it has to come across my thinking more than one time because I want to be strategic because there's so many wonderful books to read, and we have limited time, right? So that's the way I pick my books. It has to be something relevant. It has to be something that I'm hearing a lot about. And then when I read my books, I, again, am thinking about my school and my learners and what key concepts would be most valuable to them as they facilitate instruction for our students who need to learn and grow and be these amazing kiddos. So I'm always thinking of that in mind, is what can I use now for my own professional development, and what can my teachers use. And so I underline and I star those key concepts. And then if I really like them, I'll go back and I'll highlight those. So I don't just read a book once. Again, I underline and star key concepts, and then I'll go back with a highlighter or highlighter tape, and I'll underline those things that are relevant to me. And so I've gone through the book a couple of times, but I'm not done. As to be healthy and fit, I like to read on the treadmill, and so I'll go back and I'll reread the highlighted parts again just to get my thinking. And so now I have really deep knowledge of the author's words and meanings, and I can use it in various ways, either with my students or with my staff or me as a leader, or sharing it with other leaders that I work with, so we can have enriching conversations about what's effective. And to be an outlier, to be a thinker, to do something different. I like to be an outlier, and I like to have conversations about change and how can we facilitate change. And so to me, that's really important that I have a knowledge base myself so I can have those conversations. So again, underline and then go back and highlight what's most important. And then you'll notice at the top I have tabs so that when I pick out this book, if I'm going to one topic about curriculum, there it is. And I can turn to that page, and all the things that I need to know about curriculum are right there. And so I don't have to do a lot of digging. And yes, there's a table of contents, but I don't necessarily follow the table of contents. I follow what's relevant to me. So some chapters may get lots of tabs, or just one or two or none, but I find what's valuable to me and what I'm going to use again. So that's how I tear apart a book or use a book to facilitate my own learning. I guess the word is annotate, right?
Yeah,
There we go.
that's the school word.
That's the
You must spend a lot of time on the treadmill then.
Uh, it's my release because I have a long commute and I have a long day, and it's what I like to do to decompress at the end of the day.
Cool.
I'm pretty religious about that.
That's good. You've got a lot of books and you're posting new books often enough that you must get through them pretty fast. Are you a fast reader or are you an average reader?
Um, I'm a slow reader, and I write or read with a pencil in my hand, so it's purposefully slow. But there are seasons in my life that I can read, and these last 2 months are one of those seasons where I'm attending classes myself personally, and so I don't have time during those periods to read what I like to write or what I like to read. So these last 2 months, I've read 4 or 5 books, and my class starts on Monday, and I have 2 or 3 more that I need to read before class starts. So there are seasons in your year that you get to read more than others.
And how many books would you say you could read in a year if you had the time that you wanted to devote to it? Because
Probably
4 to 5 sounds like a lot for most people, I think, to read in 2 months. I think 1 book a month is probably a pretty good pace for most people. I could be wrong, so if I'm wrong, let me know.
I always have a book wherever I go. And so for me, it's probably an average of 12 to 15 books a year. But I'm not going to confess how many I really do. Because that would be really nerdy, right?
That's okay. We can be nerdy here. One of my online friends, Claire Diaz-Ortiz, she reads 200 books per year, which just seems crazy to me, but she's taking a little different approach. She's going for quantity, to be sure. So,
well, one other tool that I use, because I do commute a lot, is I read books on audio, and that is enriching as well, because it just, like right now, I'm reading Triggers on audio, and it's just a time for me to drive and reflect. I don't get to necessarily write it down. That kind of bothers me a little bit, but I'm just trying to absorb the book and learn from that. And that's another alternative that folks can do too. Audible.com is my true friend.
Yeah, I bet. That was one of my other questions is, do you, with all the writing and annotating you do you do Kindle books, or do you only do physical or audiobooks?
I have a couple of books on Kindle, but for me, I guess I'm old-fashioned. I like to have it with me, and I am in so many places, like for when I'm in a meeting and I have 10 minutes and I can sit and read while people are gathering about, I'll have my book with me. So I just find, for me personally, I like the hardback books, and I think I'm a dying generation, but I'm going to adhere to that because it works for me. But somebody else might like the Kindles, but then I wouldn't get to star and underline and highlight, and I guess you can, but there's something lethargic about doing that again.
Well, and the other thing is, I'm sure that you've experienced this, where where in the book a certain quote or thing is, what side of the page it's on and where it's at and what color it's highlighted in. And so doing that physically probably really helps you retain and know where to go to get the full story on that, right?
Yep. And I have a strategy, like when I have a really great quote that I know is in a book, I'll bend the page. And when I know it's in focus, so I'll just go look for that bent page and, there's my quote. And so I have that ready for me. And there's one other thing I do, and this is really nerdy, but it helps.
Excellent.
Okay. I keep 3x5 cards as summaries of my books, and I keep this in my briefcase. So again, when I don't have a book with me and I want to just summarize what I've learned. So again, going back to make it stick, I want to remember what I've read and how it relates to my thinking and my school improvement work. So I have these summaries as well. And I just do that every once in a while, like the top ones talk like TED. So I am going to be doing a presenting project here in a little bit, so I want to remember those key points, and there it is for me right there.
Very cool. Thank you for getting nerdy with us. That's great. You just inspired a whole bunch more questions. I don't know if we'll even get to them, but
Okay.
what's your method for condensing onto a note card? How do you do one note card front and back, one side, multiple note cards per book? What does that look like?
It's one note card per book. And it's just really the key points that I want to remember when I am going to, again, do professional development, have conversations with different folks. Sometimes I'll actually put their names on here that I want to talk with this person about. I try to engage as many people as I can in book conversations. So this last year, I think I had 3 or 4 different book groups with different colleagues so that we could talk about, for instance, one of my instructional coaches is facilitating work in our kindergarten classroom. So I wanted to read a book with her together on how she's facilitating instruction with our kindergarten teachers. So we had a book. I read a book with my colleagues, my leadership team, and then the superintendent recommended a book, so I read that as well, and I was able to engage in dialogue with him about this other different kind of thinking. So, yeah, I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, I like that idea and that approach, and that's a pretty big stack of note cards right there.
I know it's but and you can see they're really worn. But again, it really helps me to be a mindful educator and to be a principal that is doing important school improvement work to really do what research has shown to be effective. So not just research, but effective practice strategies.
So going back to the book itself, do the colors of the highlighting, the colors of the tabs, do those have a meaning, or do you just use whatever highlighter is close?
Sometimes I'll differentiate the colors because it represents key concepts that I want to share for myself versus my teachers. So for instance, this focus book really are 3 different initiatives that we should be doing as building leaders. And that's something that I just need to open up that book and there it is again. And I need to remember those 3 things because that's another interesting topic. Whenever I read, there's 18 things or 3 things or 5 things. Well, that's all well and good, but what's going to be really valuable to me? So I might highlight that a different color just so that it's valuable to me.
So when you're doing this, you're reading these books at different seasons. Do you go back and add to the note card when you find something that's really powerful that as a teacher it was good, but now as a principal it's like, wow, that's amazing, I've got to add that to the note card? Do you experience that?
I actually don't add it to the note card, but that's a good idea. I add it to the book itself. So there is notes that I take in the book to go back to help me with my thinking. I haven't thought about going to the note cards and doing that as well, but that's a good idea. Great, now something else for me to do.
Yeah, just add it to the list. You're already doing a ton, so that's great.
Well,
So
it's fun for me. It's engaging. It keeps me as a learner. It's something that propels me forward to do something new and different, and to have a knowledgeable base for conversations.
yeah, I see it in you whenever we meet that you've got these things right next to you, and it is clear that you are aware of what you're reading and paying attention. Some people struggle with that. This is fun to you. Some people don't enjoy reading for the sake of reading. What would be your advice to them on how to get started and how to start a system of reading well?
And that's a great question. I purchased a book for our leadership team last year. And, of course, I want to buzz right through it. But I have learned to go slow to go fast. My staff will all tell you that, Kimberly, slow down. So I try to go slow to go fast, and which is a great thing because we have last year read one book, but we went really deep into every chapter. And it was Eric Jensen's work on poverty and the strategies that we need to use as educators with our students of poverty. And, that really taught me the value of going slow because we got to go deeper. And I need to honor them as learners as well and not to skim the surface, but to go deep because this work is deep. And so we need to go slow. And so if they're going to carry that thinking with them to their classrooms, how powerful is that versus just going really quickly and not retaining any of it?
So one of the things that David Long mentions in his book Built to Lead is having book clubs with your staff. You did one book for the whole year last year.
Mm-hmm.
What's your plan going forward on how to do that with your staff?
So we took 2 years actually to read Eric Jensen's book. 2 years. And I'm thinking, are you kidding me? But wow, the practices that are now in place because of that thinking has really taught me an invaluable lesson that yes, it's important to go slow. And so we'll be reading a new book this year, and that is, wait for it, Visible Learning for Literacy. So that's the one that we're going to be digging deep in as a leadership team. And I also have another leadership team. It's our school-wide Positive Restorative Justice leadership team, or PBIS team. And this will be our second year of Carrots and Sticks. Again, because we're implementing restorative justice practices at a deeper level than I could say anybody in our school district, the value of that has really impacted students because we're teaching them to be owners of their own choices, their own behavior, and how valuable is that? What a life skill that is. But I'm also allowing teachers to learn that skill at a deeper level. And what does that mean, not just for the questions that I ask the children, but how am I as a teacher interacting with this child in a respectful way and helping them understand the impact of their choices?
Very exciting. It's fascinating to think that reading a book as a group could take 2 years to get through it, but the learning that you've described from doing that is really inspiring and definitely something that we want to continue and foster. I really appreciate you being part of the Transformative Leadership Summit, and those of you who are watching, if you're going to want to watch this again and share this with others, because we got such good information from Kimberly today, if you get the all access pass, you'll be able to do just that and get a lot of the bonuses and freebies that the presenters are putting together. And, maybe we'll be able to get some tips on how to do this from Kimberly if she's agreeable to that. So thank you so much, Kimberly, for being part of the Leadership Summit. Any parting words before we conclude our interview today?
Be a good listener and find out what others are reading. It's a great way for you to, learn more about them and make those connections, especially your teachers, so that we can be learners from them as well. And I think they really value and appreciate that. And that's the lesson that I've learned today, is that a teacher may recommend a book to me that I may or may not agree with, but I'm willing to pick it up and read it and then have a conversation with teachers. And that's been really a powerful practice for me this year.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much again, Kimberly, for being part of the summit. And people can find your blog. There's a link right down below us to a few things worth reading.blogspot.com. Thank you so much.